Golf. Caitlin Clark found herself alongside Nelly Korda and Lauren Wynn. Not in a basketball arena, but on a golf course, where the LPGA bent its schedule to showcase her. The message was unmistakable. Her presence wasn't just welcome, it was prioritized. While the golf world celebrated Clark's crossover with TV coverage, top-tier pairings, and high-profile praise, the WNBA remained curiously quiet.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
No primetime push. No league-wide embrace. Instead, her growing fame sparked more suspicion than support, with internal politics and resentment taking center stage. Golf saw a star and leaned in. The WNBA saw the same star and stepped back. The contrast isn't subtle, it's strategic. The LPGA recognized Clark's draw and made her part of their growth plan, aligning her with their biggest names and using her influence to expand the audience for women's sports. Meanwhile, the WNBA's hesitation not only missed a marketing opportunity, but also exposed deeper issues about how emerging talent is handled. Clark's social media numbers soared, mainstream coverage spiked, and legends like Tiger Woods and Steph Curry took notice. One league built the moment, the other let it pass. And in that silence, Clark's path forward looks increasingly clear and increasingly separate. Caitlin Clark has become the face of women's sports in 2025, but it didn't happen the way you'd expect. Because while the WNBA fumbled the bag, the golf world picked it up, polished it, and turned it into gold. Clark's simple participation in a golf event sparked more energy, engagement, and cross-sport enthusiasm than the WNBA has managed to build around her all season. And now, she's making headlines not just for dominating basketball, but for leaving, at least symbolically, after the league's top leadership failed to meet the moment. It started with what should have been a fun off-court appearance. Caitlin Clark teamed up with LPGA stars Nelly Korda and Lauren Wynn. Not for show, not for a brand stunt, but for a crossover event that actually made sense. And the golf world? They didn't just tolerate her, they moved mountains to feature her. They shifted programming, lined her up with elite talent, and turned the spotlight directly on her. It wasn't subtle. It was a masterclass in how to leverage a star without alienating the sport's core. The WNBA could have done the same. They had the most marketable player in league history handed to them, and instead of building around her, they questioned her. Internally, the league focused on locker room politics, on resentment, on how much attention Clark was getting instead of how they could all benefit from it. While golf embraced her, basketball hesitated. And that hesitation has consequences. The golf event was broadcast, shared, and hyped by major channels, and not just because Clark was there, but because the LPGA understood the assignment. They knew her presence was a threat to current players. It was a bridge to new fans, new sponsors, and new relevance. They paired her with the best of the best, top-ranked pros who welcomed the crossover. Nelly Korda and Lauren Wynn weren't guarded or passive. They leaned in, welcomed her on social media, and made her feel part of something bigger. There was no side-eye, no cold shoulders, just respect. Contrast that with what Clark's been facing in her own league. Instead of unity, there's been tension. Instead of promotion, silence. The WNBA missed a real chance to elevate its brand, and Clark saw it. She's living the difference now, and so is the energy around her LPGA appearance was electric. Instagram was flooded with behind-the-scenes moments. Caitlin smiling with players like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham. Interactions with Annika Sorenstam, the event's organizer, and a flood of positive comments from fans who don't even watch golf. That's what crossover appeal looks like. New demographics, new media, a totally different energy. And it wasn't just fans paying attention. Steph Curry praised her. Tiger Woods publicly backed her. Tiger asked for her autograph. That's not a cute sports moment. That's a generational shift. When legends from other sports are lining up to show support, it tells you exactly who the cultural needle is moving for. And it's not anyone inside the WNBA leadership office. Because while Cathy Engelbert and the league spent time worrying about locker room dynamics and distributing attention equally, the LPGA just got on with it. They celebrated Clark's star power. They didn't treat her like a disruptor. They treated her like an opportunity. And the results were immediate. Increased viewership, higher engagement, and a renewed excitement around women's golf. The WNBA had that same opportunity, but they got caught up in trying to manage the moment instead of maximizing it. That's why Clark's symbolic departure is hitting so hard. She's not quitting the WNBA, but she's absolutely stepping outside of it, and her success in other spaces is proving that her power goes way beyond basketball. She's no longer tied to one league, one sport, or one system. She's bigger than that now. She's her own. The more support she gets from outside sports, golf, basketball legends, the media, the more obvious the contrast becomes. The LPGA didn't view her as an outsider. They rolled out the red carpet. Golf's top players didn't resent her. They posted photos, sent messages, thanked her for showing up. Meanwhile, in her own league, she's being questioned for being too popular, too promoted, too powerful. And fans are noticing. The narrative has shifted. Online, people are asking why the WNBA didn't do what golf did, why they haven't protected or promoted their most valuable asset, why internal jealousy has been allowed to shape how the league moves. And honestly, there are no good answers. Caitlin Clark has shown what happens when a league does support its stars, and what happens when it doesn't. One side grew, the other stalled. Golf recognized an opportunity and built around it. They saw Clark not as someone who threatened tradition, but as someone who could modernize it. They didn't just invite her in, they highlighted her. And in return, they got viral moments, mainstream coverage, and respect from new corners of the sports world. That's how you win. At the WNBA, they chose caution. They chose to downplay Clark's cultural dominance for the sake of internal balance. And they paid for it. Instead of riding the momentum, they slowed it down. Instead of amplify her reach, they try to contain it. But Clark doesn't fit in a box. And now that she's seen how other sports embrace her, she's not going to shrink herself to fit. That's what makes this moment feel like a turning point. Clark's crossover into golf isn't just a side gig, it's a statement. She's showing every other league what it looks like to build, to share, to support. And she's showing the WNBA that if they don't get on board, she'll keep growing without them. That's not a threat. It's already happening. There's a lesson in all of this. When athletes become bigger than their leagues, it's usually because the league failed to evolve with them. Caitlin Clark's not asking to be treated differently. She's showing what happens when someone is. Golf gave her space, recognition, and partnership. The WNBA gave her friction. It's a simple equation. Support stars and they lift everyone up. Fight them, and they find new places to shine. Clark has now become a case study in how women's sports can and should market their stars, not by suppressing popularity, but by expanding it, not by controlling the narrative, but by leaning into it. And she didn't have to beg for that treatment. Another sport gave it to her, gladly. So now fans are watching, athletes are watching, sponsors are watching, and the WNBA, they're being forced to catch up, to rethink everything from how they treat breakout stars to how they manage internal jealousy. Because the truth is, Caitlin Clark isn't just a player anymore. She's a movement. And movements don't wait around for permission. Let us know where you stand. Did the WNBA blow their shot with Clark? Is the golf world showing everyone how it should be done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this if you're tired of missed opportunities in women's sports. And make sure to subscribe for more raw, real breakdowns of the chaos, drama, and power shifts in pop culture and pro sports. Caitlin Clark isn't asking for validation anymore. She's not waiting for the WNBA to catch up because she's already proving loudly that her influence doesn't begin and end with basketball. And now that she's seen what it looks like to be fully embraced by another sport, there's no going back. The golf world didn't just accept her, they celebrated her. They didn't whisper about locker room dynamics or worry that her spotlight would outshine others. They understood the value of having a transcendent star walk through the door, and they acted on it, fast, pairing her with Nelly Korda, broadcasting the event nationally, and shifting entire schedules just to make her feel like the centerpiece. Meanwhile, the WNBA kept its arms crossed. Let's be real. The LPGA used Caitlin Clark better in one weekend than the WNBA has in an entire season. They saw her crossover appeal recognized it instantly, and built an experience around it that lifted everyone involved. Nelly Korda, Lauren Wynn, Annika Sorenstam, they weren't left behind. They weren't diminished. They were elevated right alongside Clark. That's how you build a movement, not by guarding the spotlight, but by widening it. And the results? Immediate. Social media blew up. Instagram flooded with selfies, group shots, behind-the-scenes clips. Posts from Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, and others turned into viral content. People who had never watched a golf event in their lives suddenly knew who Annika was. That's what happens when you link legacy athletes to a name that's already setting the internet on fire. Now contrast that with the WNBA's reaction to the exact same woman. From the beginning, there's been tension. Not because Clark's arrogant or demanding, but because her presence has disrupted the old order. Instead of viewing her as an opportunity, some in the league have treated her like a threat, like she needs to be put in her place, rather than positioned to raise the bar for everyone. And the leadership? Flat-footed. Cathy Engelbert and league execs have been so busy trying to balance the attention that they've completely missed the bigger picture. Growth doesn't happen by keeping things even. It happens by going all in when a breakout star explodes onto the scene and using that explosion to lift others. But instead of jumping on the moment, they hesitated. They worried about egos. They worried about fairness. Golf didn't. The LPGA showed what leadership with vision looks like. They didn't care that Caitlin Clark wasn't a golfer. They cared that people cared about her, that she brings numbers, that she's culturally relevant, that she can pull eyeballs from TikTok to ESPN to the Golf Channel in a way no one else is doing. And instead of pushing her to the edges, they gave her the main stage. The WNBA's unwillingness to follow suit is becoming harder to justify. Let's not pretend this was ever about basketball talent alone. This was about marketability, about economic potential. Caitlin Clark is currently the most commercially powerful female athlete in the United States. The proof is in the numbers, in the Forbes rankings, in the endorsements. The woman pulled $8.1 million in her rookie season, not because she demanded it, but because she's worth it. That level of influence is rare. And it should have had the WNBA in full sprint mode, ramping up campaigns, building partnerships, aligning their entire strategy around maximizing this moment. But they were too busy trying to manage her instead of elevating her. Meanwhile, other industries are lining up to get a piece. When Steph Curry and Tiger would go out of their way to praise an athlete publicly, that's not just support. That's validation. That's a transfer of status. When Tiger Woods, arguably the most dominant figure in the history of golf, asks for your autograph, you've transcended the sport. You become the moment. So where does that leave the WNBA? In a tough spot. They're watching their biggest star thrive outside their ecosystem. They're watching other sports, other sponsors, and other media outlets get the kind of press, traffic, and cultural impact that should have been theirs. They had her first. They had every reason to build around her, but they chose caution. And caution doesn't win championships. It doesn't sell tickets. And it definitely doesn't grow leagues. The Caitlin Clark golf event wasn't just a crossover. It was a spotlight on everything the WNBA could have done, but didn't. It was a blueprint for how to welcome new fans, build up existing stars, and generate excitement without tearing anyone down. And the best part? The golf world proved that you can support a superstar without making others feel small. Nelly Korda didn't shrink because Caitlin showed up. She shined. The LPGA didn't fracture. It flourished because they understood what the WNBA still doesn't. When you support greatness, everyone wins. And that's what makes Clark's symbolic exit so telling. She's not literally leaving the league, but she is stepping into other spaces that treat her value with the respect it deserves. And that should terrify WNBA leadership. Because if Clark continues to thrive outside their control, what's stopping other rising stars from doing the same? This isn't a Caitlin problem. It's a league-wide issue. If the WNBA continues to resist change, continues to treat popularity like a threat instead of an asset, they're going to lose more than just momentum. They're going to lose relevance. Fans don't wait around forever. Sponsors don't either. And if athletes like Clark realize they can get more support, more exposure, and more respect outside the league, That's a problem no PR spin can fix. Caitlin Clark is showing everyone how to grow women's sports the right way. She's collaborating. She's bringing new eyes. She's expanding the brand. And most importantly, she's proving that you don't need to choose between talent and attention. You can have both. You should have both. So the question now isn't whether Clark is leaving. It's whether the WNBA is going to catch up before she fully outgrows them. The blueprint is clear. Embrace crossover stars. Build around breakout talent. Promote without paranoia. And understand that respecting one player's rise doesn't mean disrespecting the rest. The golf world did it, and they reaped the benefits. Meanwhile, the WNBA's hesitance is becoming a cautionary tale. Caitlin Clark's legacy won't just be about how she changed the game on the court. It'll be about how she changed the business around it. And if the WNBA doesn't want to be left behind, they need to start acting like they know what they've got. Because Caitlin isn't waiting. And neither are the fans. Caitlin Clark walking into the golf world wasn't just a fun detour. It was a wake-up call. Not just to the WNBA, but to every women's league still stuck in the old playbook. While basketball leadership was tangled up in protecting egos and managing internal drama, the LPGA executed a play that was all about vision. And it worked. Let's not gloss over how bold that move was. Golf doesn't typically reach outside its lane like this. It's a sport known for its tradition, its quiet elitism, its slow and steady pace. But when Caitlin Clark showed interest, they moved fast. They saw what she brought to the table, not just as an athlete, but as a culture-shifting brand, and they gave her the full spotlight, not as a novelty, not as a prop, but as part of the show. They didn't downplay her presence to protect their veterans. They didn't shuffle her into a safe PR segment. They paired her with Nelly Korda, Lauren Wynn, and other top-tier names in the sport. They said loud and clear, this is where women's sports is going, and she belongs here. And the world noticed. The entire vibe around the event was electric. Photos, behind-the-scenes reels, IG stories. It wasn't just a sports crossover. It was a media moment. And while that happened, fans and sponsors were asking the obvious question, why couldn't the WNBA do this? Why hasn't her own league rolled out this kind of rollout, this kind of enthusiasm? Because the truth is they could have, they just didn't. From the start, the WNBA has had a complicated relationship with Clark's meteoric rise. While brands like Nike and Gatorade were quick to capitalize, while social media crowned her the face of the future, her own league took a more measured approach. And by measured, we mean hesitant, tense, cautious to a fault. They were worried about optics, about fairness, about what it would look like if one rookie got all the attention. But what they forgot is that star power doesn't ask for permission. It just happens. And when it does, smart organizations build around it. One, the LPGA saw it. They got the memo. They didn't overthink it. They didn't second-guess it. They looked at Clark's audience, her market impact, her social reach, and they said yes. Immediately. No drama. No defensiveness. Just opportunity. And the payoff was massive. New eyeballs. New buzz. New momentum for a sport that rarely dominates headlines. Golf won the weekend. Golf won the narrative. And golf got an entire wave of young, curious fans who showed up specifically because Caitlin Clark did. Sad. Meanwhile, back in the WNBA, that same wave has been rolling for months, and they still haven't figured out how to ride it. The tension isn't just behind closed doors anymore. It's visible. It's public. You can see it in how players respond to media questions. You can feel it in the energy around games. And you can absolutely see it in how Clark's every move gets dissected. Not for what she's doing for the league, but how she might be disrupting it. And that's the core issue. The WNBA isn't seeing Clark as a launch pad. They're seeing her as a balancing act. But the league isn't balanced. It's been begging for this kind of momentum for years. And now that they have it, they're treating it like a problem instead of a turning point. Meanwhile, Clark isn't slowing down. She's getting more crossover offers, more praise from legends, more chances to step into other arenas, sports, media, business. And every single one is showing more enthusiasm than the WNBA has. It's no wonder people are speculating about her leaving. Not leaving the game. not quitting, but emotionally and strategically checking out a system that doesn't know how to handle her. When Steph Curry calls you a generational icon, when Tiger Woods asks for your autograph, when the LPGA clears the schedule for your appearance, but your own league hesitates to market you, that's not just frustrating. It's humiliating, and fans feel that. They're vocal. They're calling out the double standards. They're noticing that other players are being elevated just to balance Clark's success without the numbers or impact to back it up. It's become obvious that there's more concern about protecting the old guard than there is about growing the sport. That's a bad strategy, because Clark isn't a passing trend. She's a shift in how we think about women's sports altogether. She's bringing in non-traditional fans. She's driving digital traffic. She's moving merchandise. She's helping broadcasters hit numbers they haven't seen in years. This isn't just nice to have. This is the future. And right now, she's giving more to the sport than she's getting back. The WNBA's leadership needs to wake up, because while they're busy playing gatekeeper, Clark is proving she can build a platform anywhere. If they won't center her, someone else will. And that's what's already happening with golf, with brands, with media outlets that are all too happy to do what the league won't. Support her, elevate her, invest in her. Because Clark isn't just here to fit into the WNBA. She's here to redefine it. But she can't and won't do that alone. And why should she? If she can get more respect, more support, and more opportunity outside the league, the choice becomes obvious. She doesn't have to leave the WNBA to leave its center of gravity. She's already pulling focus to wherever she goes. And if that energy keeps flowing into other spaces, spaces that embrace her rather than resent her, it won't just be a missed opportunity. It'll be a full-blown failure of leadership. The LPGA didn't make that mistake. And now they've got the buzz, the fans, and the media cycle to prove it. They shared the spotlight, and it made their sport shine. The WNBA could have done the same. Let us know what you think. Did the league blow its chance with Caitlin Clark? Should other sports be following golf's lead? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like if you're watching the power shift happen in real time, and subscribe for more breakdowns of the wild moves, bad decisions, and unexpected power players shaking up the sport world.